woman held up her phone, filming and declaring loudly, "Mike Tyson isn't just a legendary boxer. He's a hero of justice." A middle-aged man shouted, "We stand with you, Mike. Justice must be served." Mike turned back to help the elderly woman stand up. She was still trembling, but her eyes were less fearful. She looked at Mike, her voice hoarse. "Thank you, young man. I didn't know what would happen without you." Mike smiled gently, his voice full of reassurance. "No need to thank me, ma'am. I was just doing what anyone should do." He slowly led her out of the park, while the crowd remained, some continuing to film and comment. Mike knew that his actions today were just a small step, but they had planted hope in the hearts of those who witnessed. For him, protecting justice wasn't the responsibility of one person, but of the entire community. Taylor turned back to Blake and Carter, his voice growing colder. "You two ignored. You've brought shame to our entire police force." Carter tried to object, but Taylor raised his hand to stop him. "I don't want to hear any excuses. We will handle this properly. Now, leave this place immediately." Now devoid of any pride, reluctantly left the park under the scornful gazes of the crowd. Mike Tyson, on his way to ensure the elderly woman got home safely, knew he wasn't the one to change the entire system, but today's small action had created a significant impact, and that's how change begins. From a brave action, from a decision not to remain silent in the face of injustice. As Mike Tyson left with the elderly woman, the incident in the park quickly spread across social media thanks to the videos recorded by the crowd. Within hours, images and footage capturing the two officers abusing their power, along with Mike Tyson's stand for justice, became the center of public attention. Public pressure forced the police department to take immediate action. Lieutenant Taylor decided to suspend Officers Blake and Carter pending an investigation. An independent investigation team from the Department of the Interior was established to thoroughly examine the officers' actions and the management system's shortcomings. The investigation team quickly gathered evidence, including videos from the crowd, testimonies from Mike Tyson and Mrs. Martha Johnson, and the previous records of Blake and Carter. The crowd's videos clearly showed the elderly woman sitting quietly on a bench with no suspicious actions, while the two officers used unnecessary force by throwing her to the ground and handcuffing her. Testimonies from Mrs. Martha and Mike Tyson further reinforced the evidence of the officers' brutality and disregard. The investigation also found that Blake and Carter had multiple past complaints regarding abuse of power, but these complaints were often ignored or dismissed lightly. Small protests took place outside the police station, with banners demanding justice and police reform. The media continuously reported on the incident, and Mike Tyson became the voice representing the vulnerable. In an interview, he shared that voice need to be protected, not threatened. Mike's words stirred public opinion, and human rights organizations also joined in applying pressure, demanding the police department provide transparent answers. Blake and Carter were summoned to appear before an internal disciplinary committee. Blake tried to defend himself, claiming they were just doing their duty, and acted swiftly to ensure public safety. However, the videos from the scene disproved this defense. The committee pointed out that they had no specific evidence related to Mrs. Martha and had bypassed all basic verification procedures. Carter tried to plead for forgiveness, but Lieutenant Taylor asserted actions had destroyed public trust in the police force. Ultimately, the disciplinary committee decided to dismiss Blake and Carter for abuse of power and severe violations of professional ethics. Their records were forwarded to the Department of Justice for consideration of criminal charges for unlawful use of force and human rights violations. This decision was announced, and the police department committed to reforms to prevent similar incidents in the future. This outcome, Mike Tyson responded that it was a step in the right direction. He hoped it would send a strong message to all who abuse their power that the era of silence was over. Mike continued to engage in community activities, advocating for reform and using his influence to promote change. For him, this incident wasn't just a confrontation in the park, but a reminder that justice always needs to be protected, no matter who stands up to fight for it. The event in the park and Mike Tyson's strong actions became a catalyst for a wave of change within the police system. Under public pressure and Lieutenant Taylor's commitment to reform, the police department began a comprehensive renewal plan to restore community trust. Lieutenant Taylor announced that all officers would participate in mandatory training programs on professional ethics, cultural awareness, and nonviolent crisis intervention skills. These lessons emphasize that the role of the police is not to dominate, but to protect and serve the community. A new complaint handling system was established, allowing citizens to report abuse of power anonymously. All complaints would be thoroughly reviewed and independently investigated by an external committee to ensure transparency. Officers were encouraged to report colleagues who engaged in wrongdoing without fear of retaliation. Mike Tyson, though not an official part of the police force, became a strong advocate for these reform efforts. He regularly appeared at community meetings, sharing his story and urging people to continue fighting for justice. In a speech before a crowd, he said, "This isn't just about an elderly woman in a park. This is about all of us, about a system that needs to change. If we don't stand up, who will? Each one of us has a role in building a fairer community." Mike's presence at community meetings not only inspired, but also attracted media attention, keeping the issue of reform in the spotlight. He emphasized that real change requires time and perseverance, but it can only be achieved if everyone works together. The changes began to yield significant results. Younger officers, especially newcomers, showed a stronger commitment to building relationships with the community. Many community police interaction programs were organized, helping both sides understand each other better and break down prejudices. Officers participated in meetings at schools, churches, and residential areas to listen to the concerns and opinions of the public. Mrs. Martha Johnson, the woman who had been a victim in the park incident, became a symbol of the fight for justice. She joined community meetings alongside Mike Tyson, sharing her experience and urging people not to stay silent in the face of injustice. The story of Mike Tyson and Mrs. Martha didn't just impact the city where the incident occurred, but spread nationwide. It became a symbol of unity, demonstrating that one individual can make a significant difference by standing up against injustice. On social media, hashtags like Justice for Martha and Stand with Mike became movements, encouraging people to share their own stories of what's right. Mike continued his role as a leader in the system, but also encouraged educational values of fairness and respect. Mrs. Martha, now recovered both physically and mentally, lived a more peaceful life, always protected and respected by the community. She often said, "That day, I thought I wouldn't see another tomorrow. But Mike stood up, and thanks to him, I regained my faith in people and justice." The story of Mike Tyson and Mrs. Martha is a testament to the power of courage and unity. It shows that no matter how difficult the circumstances, justice will prevail if someone is willing to stand up for what's right. Changes in the system can't happen overnight, but with each action, each voice, a fairer society can be built. Mike, reflecting on what had happened, wasn't proud of his fame or achievements. What satisfied him most was not turning his back when facing injustice, doing the right thing, and knowing that his small action had given hope to many. He smiled, continuing his journey in the fight for justice, knowing this was just the beginning of what was to come. The story of Mike Tyson and Mrs. Martha is not only a testament to individual bravery, but also a symbol of community strength when standing up against injustice. It reminds us that in a world sometimes rife with unfairness, even a small action can make a significant difference. No matter who you are, where you are, or what you do, you can always contribute to making society better. We learn that justice doesn't exist naturally, but needs to be protected and fought for through unity, trust, and perseverance. Everyone can help build a world where compassion, fairness, and respect are always prioritized. If this story touched your heart, share it to spread this positive message to more people. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on our channel so you don't miss out on more inspiring and meaningful life stories. Let's create change together, starting today.
Iverson was the defining player of his era, but like watch how quick this young man defined rocket.
You be sitting here, I'm supposed to be a franchise player, and we're in here talking about practice.
People know how he is. He'll call out one.
Listen, we talking about practice. Not a game, not a game, not a game. We're talking about
Iverson grew up in Newport News, Virginia.
A mix of low to moderate income homes and some of the city's older business streets, the East End has more than its share of problems. Police patrolling the area deal with street crime of all sorts.
Iverson was surrounded by pitfalls that could derail a promising future.
my dad was in and out of jail most of my life.
I was a young kid in the Newport News area at the time Iverson was in high school. Everyone had heard of this super freak who's both the best basketball and football player in the country.
Mom always told me not to be anything that you be. And I truly believe
In his junior year of high school, Allen won the state championship and was named Virginia Player of the Year.
A sensational athlete. Both football and
Just absolutely ridiculous what he was able to do.
when Iverson was 17, he and a group of friends went bowling.
The allegation is that there was the N-word said, that there was a racial epithet which united a melee.
A massive brawl broke out, with some 30 people involved.
I remember that he had been accused of throwing a chair at someone in their bowling rally. We never know for sure if he did it, but that's what he'd been accused of.
It was supposedly a racial brawl, but only 4 black youths, 2 of them minors with no records, including Allen, were arrested.
Had he not been basically a star at Bethel High, had he not been as well known as he is, then he may not have been identified by anyone. He may have been like the other 20 people who were involved that were not charged.
Of everyone, only Iverson
That was the first move I learned.
waited.
Iverson cross. That's all I used to do. That's the first move I learned right there.
That's what's good for happiness.
And every game there was a moment. Once a
I
game,
know you gotta,
do something that
you want to
never
him.
seen before.
That he was a surefire NBA talent. The East in scoring is
Because nobody had seen him. We had seen him in McDonald's All-American game on ESPN. And so you heard
With 38-point out tonight. When you look at Georgetown, they're led by Allen Iverson, and he not only is their leader in scoring, he also is a
player thriving in the land of giants.
Yeah, I gotta have more bounce. I gotta have more bounce than that, though. Shannon been doing it for a minute. So Shannon been doing it for a minute.
Yeah, yeah.
Argument about who was going number one that year. I mean, everybody knew what was going to happen.
With the first pick in the
Yeah,
1996
like,
NBA draft.
you got about 3 pounds.
One overall. Allen Iverson, 1996 NBA draft.
Number 1 pick.
Indeed, the revolution is underway.
30 points in his first game.
But Iverson is a guy I think making skills improvement.
Boy, smoking.
Very solid player. Really for a long time.
He electrified the Philadelphia squad.
It bothered me like it would anybody else. That was the number one pick. Man, in the NBA, I just got out of jail. I'm taking care of my family.
League players while earning respect around